Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Dr. Lindsay Renzullo.
I'm Dr. Christopher Vernaleken, and today we have guests from the Granite State Dog Recovery Group, which is, we have Susan Pichet, who's the vice president, and we have Holly McCretsky, who is the president and founder. Hi, guys.
Hi. How are you?
So we would love to talk about dog recovery and dog losses, especially since we're getting into 4th of July, which is notorious for being a big time when dogs will, escape and require recovery. So why don't you tell us a little bit? Do you want to start, Holly, about the group and what you do?
So we have been a nonprofit for it'll be 11 years this summer that we've been recovering lost dogs here in Granite State. We did start off with Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, Rhode Island. We were everywhere, but we decided to focus on New Hampshire just because we have so many dogs here on a daily basis that go missing. Our team actually goes out to the field. We set up feeding stations. Once we get the dog on camera eating, then we go back with a trap. From there, we try to trap lost dogs. Sometimes they're cooperative, other times they're not. The longest one, I think, took us about 9.5, 10 months to catch.
Oh, goodness.
That's a long time, man.
Yeah. So
must have been quite a elusive dog, I assume.
Yeah, dogs are pretty resourceful, and we ended up getting that dog after probably about 10 months.
Yeah.
So do you want to give us a little bit of a briefing, Susan, about kind of what you see in terms of why dogs run off?
Sure. I would say probably 75 to 80% are rescue dogs from down south. And why that is because you don't really know their histories. And so whether they're a stray on the street, they've never seen a leash, a car, been in a house before, as soon as they come up here, they've spent days traveling, and then they get up here and they're so discombobulated that, for whatever reason, their fear, it's fight or flight, and they take off. Another reason is dogs are dogs. And whether you trust your dog outside off leash, whether they catch a scent of something, hear something, they're gone in a second, regardless how long you've owned that dog. Other things are slipping collars, collars that aren't properly fitted. We'll probably talk about GSDR is very, we're very pro Martingale collar, which is an anti-slip collar. And slip leads. So having properly fitted apparatuses on your dog is really important. And just things like fireworks, which we'll talk about for 4th of July, loud noises, being prepared and things like that. It takes, it takes a second, and it can happen to anybody.
Yeah. I mean, I think that one of the things is that people, like you said, all the time have a comfort level with their own dog, and they feel as though their own dog wouldn't leave or their own cat would sort of stay in that yard. But in reality, like you said, I mean, they're animals, and if something chases them, something intrigues them, they're going to go. And so I think, you do probably see a fair share of people that are walking their dogs get off leash, but would you say the vast majority of them are those sort of off-leash situations where they're sort of off-leash or they're out and about, and that those are the dogs that are going missing, or really is it a mix?
I think it's a mix. If they're not on a collar that's properly fitted, or car accidents, or things like it's a gamut, a gamut of things.
Yeah. And I think that when you see a dog too, I mean, that's the other thing is sort of, what do you do sort of, I want to sort of talk about what do you do if you're the owner that lost the dog versus like, what do you do if you're the person that actually sees the dog coming towards you? I right now actually am in the Granite State, hence this like weird little chair in the background and the room that I'm in, a cabin, and we're here, we actually on a lake, and sure enough, as we were outside, this dog came swimming from the lake. Yes. are sure. He didn't have any identifying tags, but he did have an electric collar, which did not work in the lake. So he just found that way to sort of swim. Thankfully, we had sort of seen him and where his house was. And so we were able to sort of reunite him with that owner because I'd seen him earlier that day playing in a yard. But, from my perspective, when he came up, it's sort of like, how is this dog going to behave? Is this dog going to just bolt? Is this friendly? So what's your piece of advice for people that they find a lost dog or a dog that's sort of free roaming?
When people find roaming dogs, or if it's your own dog, the best thing to do, definitely watch like the eyes and the shifty behavior. Like, do you want to sit on the ground and try to get this dog to come over to you? Or are you better off to see if the dog's going to follow you? And if you have dogs, how is the dog going to react? So I would definitely put my own dogs away into the house. Yeah. Usually it's sit on the ground, get them to come towards you. Don't go after them. If they bolt, do not bolt after them, because that will end up pushing the dog further away. Definitely try to get in the house, get some food, hot dog, cheese, and have the dog approach you. Do not approach the dog. And then if you're able to get a leash around its head, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were talking about some of the good prevention tactics. You were saying well-fitting collars. Tell us about those different kinds of collars, and I guess Martingale collars are something that we as vets know about, but maybe owners don't always. So yeah, talk to us.
So Martingale Collars is an anti-slip collar, and you can get them just about anywhere now. I think they're becoming more popular, which is fantastic. You can get them at your local pet store or, on Chewy, one of our favorite sites. And they're fairly cheap. And what this does is, if it's properly fitted, which we try to tell all of our families and adopters, and show them how to do that. If it's properly fitted and your dog gets in a sticky situation and tries to back up, pulling out, it will prevent them from slipping their collars over their heads. And then we also provide slip leads, which looks like a regular leash, but it has a loop on the end. And it's kind of the same idea as a Martingale collar, where it has this usually little, leather or plastic piece that comes down and protects them from doing the same, backing up and slipping out of that. I know a lot of people love harnesses, and they can be great, and some dogs have to use them to protect their necks. We suggest using both. So the brunt of the pull is going to be on the harness, and the protection is going to be on the slip lead or the Martingale collar.
Yeah, this is like a massive pet peeve of mine, is that almost every client that I see in visits comes in with these collars that are like so big, they're like draping around the dog, and you say, we need to tighten this up because look, I can just pull it right over your dog's head. Like horrified. That's too tight. Yeah, it's not. It really isn't. And frequently too, we will change out. So we always change out the regular collars for slip leads. Also, so we don't lose the owner's collars, but, and they look at us with these slip leads that are relatively thin, and they're like, that will never hold my dog. Actually, it's probably light years better than the giant collar that you have, again, draped around your dog's neck. So yeah, or those harnesses, that just like come over their, right, like woof, over the shoulder. It's got to be tight, guys. So fit 2 fingers underneath, that's it. And you don't have to be able to get your whole arm through. So yeah. That's my little public service announcement.
That are always important for the owners, but the microchips, are so important too as well, because collars can fall off. They can get lost. Some people will forget to put them on, or even if they have them on, the dog escapes. If that collar gets off, if you can have a microchip in your pet, it's so important. And it takes 2 seconds to do. You can do it at the time of the spay or the neuter. If they're little, you can do it at any time though, honestly. If you have a dog that you're adopting that's older that doesn't have a microchip, it's just like like a syringe and needle. It's like a tiny little shot. The gauge is a little bit bigger, which is why we often do it when they're, anesthetized anyway. But it is not a super traumatic event to put a microchip in.
I think it's getting people to update their information in a microchip. Like dogs that are leaving here, we're actually going to make sure that they are registered to us also, because we're seeing it too, where people are not taking the extra 5 minutes to put in their information.
Right. Your phone number changes, your address changes, or even, when you adopt a dog and they say it's microchipped, yes, it has a microchip in it, which is currently registered to the rescue. Right. Or sometimes the breeder or the pet store. So you have to tell them who you are. It doesn't magically know just because of proximity.
I think honestly, you physically have to do it for people, because people are lacking to take that extra 5 minutes. Oh, we're so excited. We're so excited. Okay, 2 months are gone by and now the dog's still registered to the rescue. Or we find a dog and, it comes to a rescue in Tennessee that has no idea who they adopted the dog out because they lost the paperwork.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think as professionals, I think we also have to help them register it if it's not registered, because it's just sadly going back to the human not doing it for their dog.
Absolutely.
So talk us through like a process. Like if you were an owner that lived in New Hampshire, you lost your dog ran off, what are the steps that you would take, and what do you guys do as the group, like to sort of help them find that dog?
Step 1, call your animal control and police department. A lot of people just go right to social media, think that Facebook's going to find their dog immediately. Step 2 is fill out a lost dog report with us. We can get it on social media. Step 3, get food outside, get food and water, and do not panic. Usually these lost dogs will come back, but all of a sudden there's 50 people in the woods screaming, Charlie, 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 pushing the dog further and further and further away. And people don't realize, and now we have 50 people in the woods, the dog's in the front yard, but there's nobody home. And the dog has circled back. So, and I think get up, if you don't get sightings right away within the first few hours, start getting up posters. Your 90-year-old neighbor is not on Facebook. She has no idea, but she's been seeing a dog for the last month eating birdseed under her bird feeder. But if there's a poster literally in front of them on a telephone pole, they're more like to call. I mean, we've seen it. Oh yeah, we've been feeding a dog for, the last 7 months. Now it's 20 degrees out. And we're worried the dog's going to freeze to death. Well, that's the lost dog that no one ever hung posters for.
Yeah.
So people find that, that's kind of like an old school method, but it really works. It is tedious. It is a lot of work to put up posters on telephone poles, and a lot of people don't like seeing them. They've called it, visual pollution, but it's what happens to lost dogs is they tend to come out of the woods in their hiding area from dusk until dawn. And so to stay away from other predators and wildlife, and it's those people that are driving on the roads, that's in the middle of the night, the truckers, the UPS, whatever, and seeing these dogs. And if they're seeing a dog and there's no flyer to tell them who to call, I mean, it's kind of, it's ineffective. So posters are very, very important. I think people are missing that step. They're just relying on a massive search party, which 9 times out of 10 doesn't work. Unless your dog is dragging a leash, we absolutely do not suggest going and doing search parties. It is ineffective, and it's just makes the dog petrified and pushes the dog out. I always tell owners that picture you're a little kid and get lost from your mom in the middle of the store, and now you have 100 people screaming your name. Are you going to go to those 100 people? No. You're going to sit and you're going to be petrified and stay where you are, or you're going to hide. And so that's kind of like dogs. They're looking for 3 main things. They're looking for food, water, and safety. They're not looking for their owners. They're looking for a way to survive.
Yeah.
So then what steps do you guys take as a professional rescue group to try to recover these dogs? Someone contacts you, and you were mentioning putting food out and cameras. Tell us all about that.
So we usually go on site. We cannot go on site for every lost dog because we would never be home. We would be on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Almost are.
So basically we go out to the site. We pick an area where we think would be good to set up our cameras. We set up 2 different kinds of cameras usually. The wireless trophy cameras, which send still shots to our phones all hours of the day. If something moves or something's there eating the food, then it'll send us the still shot. We also use an Arlo Go, which sends us live, so we can click on live. We set up those once we have the dog eating, because you do not want to be chasing a dog around with 100-pound trap. We will bring a trap out. Depending on the dog's behavior on the camera, some dogs will like reach over and like jump back from the dishes, will not eat out of the dishes right away because they're terrified. We'll either tie the trap open or decide based on their behavior if we're going to set it right away. And from there, we hope to catch the dog on the first night, but the average lost dog, if you have to trap it, is about 12 to 14 days for that dog to get home. This past weekend, we're working on a little puppy, new adoption. Family actually picked it up at a transport location out in Connecticut, brought it home, let it off leash right away. Dog went missing. They got the dog home within an hour. 15 minutes later, they let the dog outside without a leash again.
Oh, no.
We are now on day 18 looking for their dog. The dog is a 5-month-old puppy. Heartbreaking for us. Took forever to get it to go into a trap. We got it to go into a trap this past weekend. And I mean, we're in this probably about 40 hours, GSDR is, with going out there, rebaiting, letting out wildlife. And sadly, the dog beat the door to the trap and has not been seen since. So we're back to, where is that dog? The dog could be a mile away. The dog could be 2 miles away. And that's where posters will come in. We're right on 4 different town borders. So the dog might have started in Derry, could be now in Chester, could be in Auburn, just because we have so many wildlife trails and it's right off the power lines. With trapping, you don't only catch a dog. We have now a woodchuck, we have a fisher cat, we have skunks, we have a raccoon. So you're up all night. It's not just put a trap out and catch a dog. It takes time. And yes, we're not there at night, but we have to watch the cameras to make sure these animals do get out. And if there's a situation where someone cannot be there at night, we have slept in our cars. I can't even count how many times we've slept in our cars and gotten home at 4 o'clock in the morning, gone to sleep for 2 hours, and then we're back at it at 6 in the morning with our regular jobs. So it's kind of, people think you can just put a trap out and the dog appears and the magic trap, but sadly that's not how it works. So, we hope we can find this puppy before fireworks, because fireworks are just going to drive it further. And you got to think, what does this little 5-month-old puppy think? Now it's lost. There's bears around. There's coyotes around.
Somebody tried to trap it. I'm just
right. And it's heartbreaking to watch. I was actually with the
so
family,
frustrating.
And the dog showed up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which is it's kind of off times for trapping a lost dog. But this dog, there's so many predators in the area that the dog is coming out a little bit earlier than your average. But it's heartbreaking to watch. This dog literally was watching the gate of the trap and heard it cling and boom, was able to beat it.
Wow.
This is a trap that is made for a 100-pound German Shepherd. This isn't, a little 40-pound dog, but the other one is stretching so far that he could have his back end out. So the door would have came down on his back end with the smaller trap. So it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. That's
Other
hard.
things that we do, we consider ourselves very innovative. We started realizing that some of these dogs won't actually go into have-a-heart traps. And so we were trying to think of what we could do. And so we have fenced-in areas. We have created our own kennels. We have created our own spring-loaded kennels. And sometimes, sadly, like with this dog, if she does come back and she doesn't enter that have-a-heart trap again, which is very unlikely, you really get one shot.
Yeah.
Then we'll have to set up these kennels, and it's starting all over again. So like Holly said, it's not putting out the kennel and the dog shows up. It's retraining that dog that we'll tie this door open for you. You can go in and eat for free for a couple of nights. And then all of a sudden, hopefully she doesn't realize that the door is now set and, hopefully can get caught. But, you really get one shot. So you kind of have to listen. You have to gauge the behavior, and you have to watch the times that the dog is coming. It's really a science. And I think that people don't really understand what goes into catching a lost dog. They see what's on Facebook, which is your lost dog poster, and then the found dog poster, and nothing in between. And it is a lot of work and a lot of time, and we love what we do, but it is it's a big process.
I'm curious, do you ever use scent tracking? This is a weird thing, but like when I was a kid, our dog pushed her way out of our fenced-in yard and had escaped, and my parents were bereft and hired a scent tracker because we just couldn't figure out where she was. She had gone a completely opposite direction from where we thought she had, and so it was actually the scent tracker kind of led us to where she was. And we sort of did the same thing as you put out food and just wait and got her back after about 12 days. But have you employed that at all, or is that not really a thing anymore? I'm curious. I'm curious if my parents were like super dumb.
So no, GSDR does not believe in scent tracking.
Yeah.
Honestly, there are a couple groups that do it, but they also charge $2,000.
Oh, I'm sure that my parents paid some insane amount of money.
$2,000, to come out to say, oh, the scent went dead, your dog was picked up, or you need to hang posters.
Right.
So I think it kind of pushes the dog out. Also, if your dog is afraid of dogs, your dog gets pushed out. So that's just not something that GSDR endorses.
Yeah, I take no responsibility for it. I was only like 10, so.
Well, there have been, we've heard a lot of stories. We've worked with a lot of families that have used the scent trackers, and that's anyone's prerogative. You can use whoever you want, and I'd probably, before knowing GSDR, would spend an astronomical amount of money to find my dog. But there have been a few times that we've heard of that, the track has gone, 10 miles in one way, and they come home and their dog is sitting on the step. So, I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah. Your mileage may vary, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when I was looking into this episode, I was looking at, just statistics in general. And I was shocked to see like some places had sort of listed, like the ASPCA and things like that, had listed like, it could be up to like 1 in 3 pets go missing in the lifetime of that pet, which is remarkable, right? If you think about how many pets go missing. And, I think geographic location probably varies. Like certain places probably have more pets that go missing than others. But I also find that it's sad because if they get brought to shelters, we're dealing with this this population problem within shelters itself, and figuring out sort of, what happens to those pets if we don't find them. So I do think that trying to keep tabs on your pet from the very get-go, not losing them in the first place, having resources like you guys is invaluable. But it can be really scary sort of thinking about what happens if we lose our pets.
Yeah, I think 1 year for just the weekend, because 4th of July ended up on like at the tail or beginning end of a weekend, that we had 92 lost dog reports just in 24 hours. And so if you think about that, that's only the people who know who Granite State Dog Recovery is, right, which we have 180, we now have 180,000 followers, but that's just in New Hampshire. That's just the people that know of GFDR. So 92 dogs just in New Hampshire in a 24-hour period. Think about all of the dogs that the family don't know who we are, or they took off and then they came right back, or it's just kind of mind-blowing, the numbers that we see.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you have a feel for what the recovery percentages are? Like, how many dogs do you get back, or do you know returned?
So we have a 93% success rate. Now, I say that because some of them sadly don't make it, but it's very, very few. I think a lot of people think wildlife will get their dogs. That's not the case. I mean, that's a very minimal percentage. But the 93% doesn't include the dogs that have run off and come right back home, or, the dogs that we sadly couldn't find, or, have been picked up and weren't reunited with their owners. So, I think 93% is a good percentage for the amount that we do. And that doesn't mean that we're going out for all 93%, but it does mean that we're talking to them on the phone, that we're answering emails, that we're listing them on social media. So, it's a pretty big percentage.
Do you have like a favorite reunited story that you can think of, like some sort of case that really got to you, or was that really emotional?
So one that sadly didn't have a happy ending. Susan and I actually worked on this dog, Freckles, for 2.5 years, trying to catch her. She was lost by a trucker on her first run with her new dad. She lived at a truck stop for 5 years. We only found out about her into it 2.5 years into it. And for 2.5 years, we tried to catch her. And sadly, she was chased by people that wanted to try to help her. And she ended up getting killed after 2.5 years. But this dog lived in a fox den. She actually would wait for us to come up every week because it was a 2 to 2.5 hour drive one way for us to get there. So we would make sure she had food and stuff for the week. We'd bring her like a 30-pound bag of food. She won't eat like yellow macaroni and cheese. She had her favorites, even though she was a feral dog. And I think she looked at us for like, hey, those are my parents, but I'm too afraid to come to them. We actually had video of her coming out of a fox den. We set up a kennel and she broke out of it within probably 20 seconds before we could even make it across the parking lot. So yeah, that was one of my favorite dogs and it touched me a long ways. And then I would say we worked on a stray golden retriever, up the road from us in Auburn, Manchester, New Hampshire. And this dog, Susan and I he was living on a little island that you could walk out to. And we got up to it. He was playing like You Can't Catch Me games. And the little brat swam away from us and met us at the car, even though he would not come to us. So that night we went back with a trap. And we had to have a flashlight on the trap so we could see what the heck we were doing. This is before the time of, our satellite cameras and wireless. So next thing you know, there goes our flashlight. The lost dog is carrying the flashlight through the woods. Like, here I
am. We knew where he went.
So he was great. And that night I went back later that night and we ended up catching him in a fenced in yard. And he did the whole death roll, like, oh, goodness gracious, I've been trapped, like rolling like an alligator. And then I said, let's go, jump right in my car. Like he knew us for years. and we never found his owners, but he ended up getting adopted, and ended up being a wonderful dog.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Susan, do you have this?
Yeah, we worked for 5 months on a little Shiba Inu. And let me tell you, Shibas are probably the most difficult dog you will ever try to catch.
They're the most difficult dogs you will ever have to deal with in any way, shape, or form. We love them, but they don't like to be handled.
Yeah, as a Shiba owner, I cringe every time we want to come through. But you know, it's kind of funny because once you see that dog when you're looking for it, you don't want to stop. You don't want to go home. And so we would go every single day and put food for this dog. And she was literally on the next street over to her. She was newly adopted. She came from a breeder situation, and she was a little older. And she did not want to go back home. She was fine being out and about. And so we tried traps, we tried kennels, we tried sitting on the ground. One time we thought she was very, very ill underneath a yurt, to be exact. And Holly and I spent the day fencing in the yurt. The dog didn't move, and Holly went under to try to go put a leash around her, and she got up in a snap and she hightailed it. She was able to do the alligator death roll right under the fence and off. So we came up with the idea of building the kennel into the land. And so we spent a very rainy day putting mud and rocks and leaves and trees to make the kennel look like a den, which we found out she had enjoyed being in. And that is the only way she would go into the kennel. So after 5 months, we were able to get her. And
we couldn't even touch the food. Susan actually had to be the only one that could go feed her and literally cut the bag open and shake it in, because if it smelled like human, she was not coming.
Yeah, I would have to wear the same shoes, because if I wore different shoes, then she wouldn't come that day. Wow. It was very, very interesting. But we became very good friends with her mom, because we saw her every day, and she's a very nice lady. So we get to keep tracks on her Shiba.
That's awesome. Are there any other things that you want to make sure we get out before we end?
I think with the 4th of July coming, make sure if you're going on vacation, it has updated tags. It has your phone number, not your phone number that's at your house that's 5 hours away, your cell phone number. Honestly, spend the extra $15, run into Petco, PetSmart, and get a new tag before you go on vacation that has updated phone numbers. Make sure your dog has tags. If you are going like to parties, I would honestly leave your dog at home so it cannot go missing at the party. There's no need for a dog to go to a 4th of July party with fireworks and strangers and doors opening. And I think
kids leaving gates open.
Right. I think that if we can, once it starts getting dark, put your dog in the house, put the music on, give your dog something busy to do, Kongs or, stuffed treats, a new marrow bone or something. Put your dog, if you have a finished basement, in the basement with the TV up. I think if we do that for prevention, every little thing that we do can help save another dog from going missing. So I think keeping your dog safe during 4th of July. No need to go to, your dog doesn't want to go to a parade, 4th of July parade, especially where we didn't have all that stuff last year with COVID. We have to make sure we protect our own dogs from going.
And secure your dog in the car. So when you get to a rest area, it doesn't leap out of the car.
Correct.
I hate that. That's like my greatest fear.
And a seatbelt for your dog, a seatbelt the handle of your leash. And so if they did jump out, it's still seatbelted into the car. Right.
Putting up baby gates, if you're expecting visitors and you know that your dog's able to bolt out the door, putting up baby gates or putting in at a crate. It doesn't have to be for all day, just for that 3 minutes that you're opening the door to let people in and out. If you're having a barbecue at your own house with your dogs there, give them a break. They don't need to be outside all the time, but keep them on leash. I know that everyone, has some kind of comfort in their dog being with them, but this 4th of July, it's one day. It's one day. It's okay for them to be in the house. Make sure windows are shut. Put the AC on. We've had dogs jump out windows. We've had dogs jump out second and third story windows. So it doesn't matter the height. They don't know. They're just wanting to get out of the house. So, ensuring that they're properly secured in the home is extremely important.
Yeah. If you're any medication or firework phobia, call your vet soon before the 4th of July.
Don't if you call the day before, we're going to be so mad.
It's coming up. It's coming up. Give us time to fill the meds.
We can't do 150 in one day.
Yeah, and if you hear someone say, my dog will never do that, you have to reinforce and say, it's an animal. No matter how well trained, it's an animal.
Every dog that gets hit by a car at our hospital, the owner invariably says, they never did that before. They're always great off leash or, whatever it is. It's not, it's not like always people who are doing horrible things where these happen. It's just the day-to-day you forget or a mistake happens. So that's the hard thing is that you can't just assume everything will be fine. You have to kind of think of those things.
Right.
And it can happen to anybody. And, there's no judgment. So don't be afraid to contact us, even if your dog has been missing before and we've recovered them. I mean, we are, we used to be the only recovery group in New England. Now we're one of a few. But we're going to help you. We're the crazy dog ladies that know how to get your dog home. So no judgment. Please contact us.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. It's really great to have you at the podcast today.
Yes, thank you.
So don't forget to check us out on social media. Go to your favorite podcast listening device and either rate or review us and subscribe. And thank you to our sponsor, Ethos Veterinary Health. So I'm Krista Vernaleken.
And I'm Lindsay Renzullo. Thank you guys so much. And we'll see you in the fall.